Hello, this is Mr. Siege, and today I want to talk about why I became a Siege main and the man himself, the legend, Mr. Siege. You may have heard this story before, but also many of you will be in the same situation as I was. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and stick around to the end of the video. So let's start from the beginning. I was introduced to Rise of Kingdoms through a Facebook advert which was based around the romance of the Three Kingdoms. I was actually a big fan of this when I used to play Dynasty Warriors on console. I was lucky enough not to invest into Lu Bu because he was out of the game by then. So I started playing Rise of Kingdoms, which I'd never even heard of before seeing this advert, and had absolutely no idea how to play. But I learned a lot, initially, mainly from other players. I enjoyed the early game atmosphere, loved chatting to people, and made some great friends. Unfortunately, these guys are no longer with us. No, not dead, they just quit, I guess. I found the most learning, however, from great content creators like Chisgul and Omniarch. However, I never discovered this until around KVK2 or so. By then, I'd already wasted a lot of time, money, materials, and universal gold heads. However, I did start off as an infantry player, which, by the way, I still think is a great choice in the early game until we get epic siege commanders. But we don't know how that's going to work yet, so we'll see. As you've had pretty good access to strong epic commanders like Sun Tzu with his decent AoE damage, who's pretty versatile on the field, and even as a garrison commander, he can be paired with any other infantry secondary commander, really, like Eulji, Bjorn, or Pericles. If investing into blue or epic equipment, you can also dismantle this all easily and you're never fully committed. However, I invested heavily into gold head commanders like YSG, Richard, Saladin, and Alex, even wasting some gold heads on Charles Martel, which, if you're not a whale, I don't recommend investing anything at all into gold key commanders. In my opinion, I made some bad choices. I must say, I did have a lot of fun in KVK 2 and 3. But if I could change things now, I would possibly only have got Richard probably to 5511. I wouldn't have invested in YSG at all. I wouldn't have put any gold heads into Charles Martel or Cleo, which I also didn't mention before, which you just ignore that. Anyway, the only commander that I personally think has really been worth investing into, in my opinion, would be Alex. He's now still got great synergy with Liu Che, which unfortunately I don't have maxed, which again probably would have been a good choice. If you're a low spender, I suggest getting through KVK 1 and 2 with a very small amount of gold head investment in terms of universal sculptures and not committing to legendary equipment, unlike what I did. This makes it a lot easier to transition either into a different troop type, like Siege, for example, as when I hit Season of Conquest, it was like being hit by a bus or even a train, just something really heavy and fast. I ran mainly Alex with YSG, although I did try Alex with Richard, which was a lot tankier, but just didn't do the damage, and it really just got slapped. It's actually been a very long time since I last played KVK 2 and 3, and I'm not sure if the transition has become any easier. Although I do know if you invest in a siege march like Margaret and Cordoba, you will get great results. And this brings me back on my failures. Firstly, I only play on mobile, and in big fights, lag has always been an issue. Strategic view was never really a thing on mobile. Although, if you don't know about it, check this out now. I think it's going to be a great addition to the game. Since recent updates, even on mobile, you can select a target without getting the major lag from all the graphics, which is great and similar to how you play on PC. So, after getting in Season of Conquest, I had to look at maxing another infantry commander, and the best pairing at the time for Alex was Guan Yu. This took me around a year to complete and ended up being a total failure. By then, he had become very weak and a huge target on the open field. I'd actually been working on Scipio Prime at the same time because he came out whilst I was working on Guan and managed to XP's him first in October of 2022 and the Guan then in the December of the same year. It's a really, really messy way of doing things, but now I've been playing for a while, I have an idea which new types of commanders will be introduced in the game, like Cav, Archer, Inf, and Siege, but also a decent idea when. Therefore, it's much easier to prepare in terms of saving universal sculptures. I actually think it's a very smart idea to save up those 690 gold heads or so to expertise a commander straight away, unless you know they will still be decent at 5511 or 5551, or that's as much as you want to put in, as long as they're going to be a bit of a game changer, non-expertised. So I basically got swarmed at every opportunity running Guan as primary and took terrible trades. And being a pretty useless mobile phone fighter is a bit of a nightmare. At this point, I was on the verge of quitting Rise of Kingdoms, but at the same time, Lilith Games decided to release new ranged commanders into the game, the first we'd ever seen. These came in the form of Margaret and Babur. Now, I was initially very skeptical. A lot of friends and content creators didn't like the idea and thought it would be very boring fighting with them. But I watched some videos from Chizgul and the odd other content creator who had anything related to them basically to see how these range commanders performed on the field. The testing was not, in my opinion, realistic. It was either just firing at range at a single target with a full march, or that target walking towards the tower without any interruption and doing a 1v1. I did notice at that time that Margaret and Babu were actually holding their own against a march like Guan Scipio, which I found very intriguing. Obviously, I ran Guan Scipio on the field, and if I wasn't getting hit by so many people, would actually be a great march. So I knew in most situations I could stay far enough away from the enemy marches based on the fighting I'd done in the past. Now, I noticed the way range commanders work is they will only take white numbers, the basic attack, counter-attack damage from enemies, unless they are in melee range, meaning you'll be getting free active skills off and receiving none in return. Like I say from past experiences, when kingdoms like mine fight, they generally make large balls of troops called murder balls, which many of you already know. When these balls meet and come into contact, these battles can last for a while without huge movement. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I saw this as a great opportunity to get better trades and more enjoyment from the game. So I unlocked Margaret and Babur, got their skills to 5511. That's all I could muster at the time with limited gold heads. I sent them out in the field with infantry equipment, which was all legendary except accessories, as you can see, and infantry troops, T5, which is all I had at the time. And I could already see a huge difference. I enjoyed the concept, the lag-free fighting, and the auto-targeting was also great, which I didn't even know at that point. So another problem I was experiencing was trying to fight whilst working. I have a very physical job, and normal field fighting requires a ton of concentration and actual physical contact with your phone. Ranged combat has given me the opportunity to fight whilst at work without taking too much notice of my phone due to the auto-targeting. Really, really nice. As long as you're in war frenzy and other allied troops are in conflict with them. So, since then, I got on with training T5 siege troops and gradually working on my equipment. Once you've actually managed to build a fairly decent set, like either a full crit harvester set or an epic set of siege equipment, that's the time you can switch over from using different troops if you don't already have siege, but you do have a legendary set of a different troop type and the corresponding troops. I actually tested this in a video, which I'll show you now. Go check it out if it may be something you could try. Maybe your kingdom doesn't want you running siege or they want them deleted. You'll still trade well with maxed commanders. So this eventually forced me into becoming who I am today. I continue getting bad trades with field troops, and my Margaret and Baba march was becoming better and better, getting fantastic trades on the field. I kept returning to YouTube, however, trying to find out more tips for ranged commanders and expecting that more and more people were going to be using them because of their fantastic results and their free to play and low spend friendly play. This wasn't the case. Nobody was posting videos on these commanders. And 10 months later, after having loads of fun in ranged combat, 2 new ranged engineering commanders were announced, introduced in the form of Gonzalo de Cordoba and Garja Marder. Again, I looked out to YouTube and their YouTube community to see their thoughts on these new commanders. I knew for a fact, looking at the skills, they were going to be completely game-changing for the Siege community. I became fed up of people slating Siege, so started reaching out to content creators. I messaged the likes of Chisgull and Omniarch, but had no response back, as I know they get lots of PMs, and I guess they just couldn't reply to all of them. I then tried reaching out to a great content creator called Archer Syndicate. Many of you may have heard of him, who is a lot less well known as those huge content creators. I'm not saying he's not great, because he certainly is. I love him. He actually did reply as well, but didn't really show much interest in sharing my experiences with the YouTube community and how good basically Siege are in the open field. So this is the point where Mr. Siege was born. I firstly dropped a few random videos that I recorded on my phone and some of the great trades I had received in recent KVKs since expertising Margaret and Baba. Some of those actually did quite well. So I presumed there was some kind of interest out there for more content. And obviously, at this point, this is on the verge of Gonzalo and Garja Marder being introduced. And I guess people were looking to see how good these commanders were. Then I started to learn how to voice over videos and created a better experience for my viewers, slowly finding ways to improve the quality of my videos and thumbnails. And after a while, I even started live streaming, all from my mobile phone, which wasn't an easy task, I must say, and I still haven't perfected it. Well, the last 2 weren't too bad. But it just had to be done for the Siege lovers out there. No one else would do it. I had to step up to the job. And this is basically the story of Mr. Siege. Now, I'm fully committed to the Siege and engineering commanders in Rise of Kingdoms. So that's all my real focus will be nowadays. It has to be. Anyways, guys, this video has dragged on long enough. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.